All right, we're live, boys. First one.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm Kevin from Guys on the Ground, collaboration with Counterculture Inc. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Tyler, Ink Tyler. Last name's Tyler Wright, but prior special operations veteran. I was in one store, special operations aviation regimen. And then I was a cop briefly after I got out of the Army. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Justin from Guided Misfit. I was in the Army for like 3 years, got out, and then now I'm in a police academy, and I was working in a jail just prior to starting that.
Nice. Awesome. I'm Kevin. I've got about 10 years police experience, been in the National Guard for 17 years, still in, also been a bomb tech for a few years as well. So yeah, let's talk about the live event. Now, Tyler, you got to show up for that.
Yeah. That was fun. It's hard to say which one I liked more from the first one to the second one. But the second one was definitely a lot of fun. Good overall experience. The taco truck outside the venue was fantastic. I don't know if that was Tyler or whoever pulled the strings on that, but tacos were great. But it was good. I thought the debate stuff was good. I got a chance to get up there and kind of go back and forth with the SWAT guy a little bit. Actually, it's good to sort of bring that up because I'm interested in your guys' takes on, I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch it, but me and him kind of going back and forth in terms of the topic we were debating. But overall, I thought it was great atmosphere. Just good, solid overall event.
Yeah, I was able to.
Yeah, sure. I got to watch most of it on the live. I showed up at the airport ready to go. I showed up at the airport ready to go, and my flight got delayed, so I was unable to. Unfortunately, not able to make it. I did see a lot of it on the live, though.
You had said, Justin, you got a chance to check it out yourself?
Yeah, I was able to watch it pretty much start to finish, so I really enjoyed it. It's always good seeing all the actual shows and programs and the dudes get together, and the debate with the SWAT guy was very interesting, to say the least. And I definitely have some opinions on it. That
was it the one where I was on there with him? Okay. I'm curious, Kevin. We can get into that then what point on the show. But I'm curious your thoughts on what me and him had debated about, because we're all military here. I was a cop. You're still a cop, and you're going through the police academy. So I'm curious what both of your thoughts are as far as that whole debate goes, because that definitely got very not competitive, but definitely very fierce. I would say most heated part of the debate from everybody that was there.
Sure. Can you just summarize your stance real quick so I don't
mess
up what I think I thought you said?
So basically, trying to think of what word to use. Basically, in a nutshell, they had a SWAT guy on there, and he had said at one point, and I don't know, Kevin, you had deployed at one point, you had said, while you were in? Kevin, can you hear me? Kevin, are you able to hear me?
You kind of cut out there for a second. I can hear you now.
You had said you deployed at one point while you were in? Yeah. You had said you deployed at one point while you were in the Army?
Yeah, I did a tour in Afghanistan. Yeah.
Okay, so then you should be able to speak on this. So basically,
I did a tour in Afghanistan in 2012.
Okay, so you'd be able to speak on this. I don't know, Justin, if you had gotten a chance to deploy or not, but basically the SWAT guy's dynamic, he decided to throw in the military dynamic in regards to policing, and what way he decided to throw that in there was he was talking, I think he was more so trying to articulate the difficulties as far as SWAT in terms of whether you're clearing a building or breaching something, and he threw out there that it's I think he didn't he wanted to say this, but he didn't. I think he wanted to say it's easier for us in the military as far as if we get into an actual whether it's firefight or whatever, because he
okay.
said the word or phrase you exactly like this. He said, "You guys in the military have no rules," and so then they got
I remember that. Yeah. So I would disagree with that statement. I
exactly.
think in the military, we do have rules. In law enforcement, there's probably more rules, and rightfully so. We're operating CODIS and not OCONUS. So that's one thing I love about this community is we can disagree with each other, and it's okay.
Right.
I think we all have the same core fundamentals and values, but it's nice to be able to have these debates.
And kind of my stance on it, and it sounds like we may have similar stances on it, but basically my stance was, I think in some regards from the police community, and it's no different from military to police and vice versa, they think we just go overseas and like, I was in the special operations community, they may think SEALs or whoever just go and just are blasting dudes. And I told the guy, like, even though you may have an ROI or they say, hey, go, execute such and such, NCIS or CID still gets involved in some form. There's no just blasting folks overseas and just going up onto the next, like, the Bin Laden raid is a perfect example of that. Right. They went in, and I believe. Go ahead.
I deployed OCONUS to Afghanistan, and then I've also deployed CONUS in the National Guard. And you definitely have rules when you deploy, like for the riots that were in 2020. So it's interesting in the National Guard you mostly have both CONUS and OCONUS mindsets, but there's definitely rules of engagement.
Right. And I had said that to him, and you've been a cop longer than I have, so I guess this is my question for you then, because I can only share. I was only a cop for it was like 7 months, and I didn't get a chance to ask him this question because he had said basically like he used the example, and I personally I don't know about you guys, but he used the example like military guys shooting through walls, and I had told him again. Maybe my experience as far as the military goes, special operations is a little different. I have never seen whether it's Army SF dudes or SEALs, they may shoot through a wall if they're going to die. And it's kind of like one of them exigent circumstance kind of things. But I don't know about you, Kevin or Justin, but I have never picked up any Army handbook anywhere that says go shooting through walls. Like
actually, Brent Tucker covered this on the Anti-Hero podcast.
Say that again.
Brent Tucker covered this on the Anti-Hero podcast about shooting through walls, that there may be a time and a place that you need to do it.
Right.
What are they called?
But I think the SWAT guy kind of, I think, made it seem like, let's say the three of us are going to clear a small house. I think he has this dynamic, like he thought like we're just, we hear a noise, blast through this wall. And I tried to tell him like, you're like, even down to like your 82nd or your 101st personnel, there's going to be a commander they're going to report to. Like you can't if you're jeopardizing someone's safety, like nowhere in my time in the Army did I ever get told or trained to, hey, if you think something might be behind that wall, just to shoot through the wall. And again, what I referenced the Bin Laden raid, that's a perfect example. They did, unfortunately, from my understanding from that mission, they took a casualty outside of Bin Laden they didn't intend to take, but there was kids there that those SEALs didn't shoot. There was other adults there that they didn't shoot. So, like, get what I'm saying? Right. And it sounds like we have that same perspective.
I just think we just shouldn't listen to Rob O'Neill when he tells that story.
Right. So. I agree.
Anyway,
I agree. Right. Don't send the SEALs.
Right. So, all right. Yeah, definitely accountability is a good thing. So, definitely a lot of crazy shit happening in the world right now. I know, Justin, there's a few things you wanted to talk about in the police world. There's you posted some awesome videos this week. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so really, like, it's not necessarily like an article or anything, but some of the stuff I've just either talked about or alluded to on some of these last few videos. I know when I talked about William May, the Florida deputy that just got killed, and then that video yesterday from Connecticut, those two officers chased, and one of them being a female and all that. But, my stance on it, and I'm not a cop yet. I don't claim to be a cop yet, but I was in the military. I've been around cops. Sure. I worked in a jail. So the mindset of the culture, it should be the same. And what I have noticed in talking with some of the OGs, it's soft. And what it is you got people that really shouldn't be carrying a gun on the streets because they're not emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically equipped to handle
Sure.
what could happen. And I'm not saying if you're a cop, like no one should ever want to go kill someone. But
Absolutely.
my mind is there should be an understanding and a willingness to do it if it was called upon and it was justified, lawful, protecting life, all that stuff. So to me, what it
100%.
seems like is, you got all these people nowadays that are scared because of politics, scared because they don't want to get in trouble. But I think scared because they really don't have the balls to go hands on anymore. And yeah, can some of those other factors be at play? Sure. But really, what do you always see? You see cops going for their tasers. You see cops,
Yeah, absolutely.
freaking out, screaming, and then, well, what happens after you draw your taser? You're gonna have to your
You gotta
gun's
go hands on
next.
then.
I think some of it too, like when you guys went through basic, did they make you guys do the clinch drill at any point? Like I brought this up in the at the live show and I got a lot of heat for it, but did they make you guys do the clinch drill? You're familiar with what I'm talking about?
Like you're saying basically in the academy or basic training?
Basic training in the Army, and it'll relate to the police work thing here in a second. Did they make you guys do that? You know what I'm talking about the clinch drill. Instructor wears boxing gloves and you got to close the distance while they're hitting you.
No,
I did
no.
not.
So when I was in, it was all like map or like stuff like that. So it was more like a MMA style to
Okay.
where it was like jujitsu, judo,
We did that, and why I'm relating that to police work, although the military to police work is different, but where I like something I had said that got people stirred up on at the live show was, and people had difference of opinions than I did, but what I ultimately go back to is I had talked about PT tests and police work, and one of the guys on the podcast said, it's different because the Army owns you. Well, so I didn't get a chance to get my counter to that. And again, you guys share what you think. I know it's a civilian job, but at the same time, if you are serving the public as you do in the military, that's public. I would say military is not, I don't know if you want to call it public servant, but it's something close to that. I do think there should be some standard there because if you're physically fit, you should cut down on those. Again, Kevin, you share my thoughts, but like if you're physically in shape, I mean, you're less, again, I was only a cop for a period of time, but like, I know if I had interacted with someone when I was in really good shape, I was 200 pounds, low body fat, like could run, my 2 miles. I could do that in 13 minutes. Like I was in shape, but I feel like that cuts down then on that risk as far as having to go to a secondary or a third, as far as like whether it's taser or your weapon, because if you're in shape and let's say you get into a wrestling match with someone, and you're getting your ass beat because you're fat and out of shape. I mean, that to me, again, some of the guys on there, I got a lot of heat for that, but I feel like if that standard in some way is set, like there's like, again, nothing against my police department here where I live, but there's a cop there, his belly here hangs underneath of his vest. And like, if he would get in.
So let me summarize your argument. You're saying the more out of shape you are as a police officer, you're actually making it more dangerous for those you're serving,
right?
To do so,
right.
I
and I
agree.
Well, I remember when I was in the police academy, and I don't know if they shared this with you, Justin, or you, Kevin, in your academy, but I remember we had it was a judge or district attorney come in when they were teaching us criminal law, and I guess the FBI did a study, and they said officers who were more put together, whether it was physical fitness, their uniform looked clean, they were less likely to have like an assailant try them in some shape, form, facet. So like that's where my argument was there. If you show up and you look like a fat piece of shit, excuse my language, versus you show up looking like you or myself who's in shape, kind of dynamic, someone's less likely than to, you know what I mean? It's like if you're driving a Honda, you're not going to pull up next to a Mustang and go, hey, let's race, buddy. Like, even though it's a different kind of not analogy, but it's you see
rather go to prison
there?
than get killed because that officer's going to kill you just by the way he looks. Right.
Exactly.
Deterrence, simple deterrence. Absolutely.
So what's your thought on that though, Kevin? As far as like they said, the military owns you. You can't make people do PT tests. Like, what's your dynamic there as far as that goes?
PT tests in law enforcement. Just want to clarify your question.
Yeah,
I think that should be a part of law enforcement for sure. And I know even some highway patrols have PT tests. Even if you start somewhere, even if you just do the regular police Cooper standards, you got to start somewhere. I'm also a huge proponent of jujitsu. I'm one of those guys. I'm sorry.
No,
I've been a
I don't agree. I don't disagree.
I've been a white belt for like 3 or 4 years, but I recently went to a subject control class. And I was not to pat myself on the back, but it's only because I train. It's because I did one of the better in the class. It's because if you train, it's like I just got tackled 5 times last week. I know how to react to this. I know how to react. So I'm also I'm a big proponent of training something. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. Just have some knowledge of how to defend yourself.
Well, it's like shooting. It's a perishable skill. I mean, you train, Kevin. I'm sure if you didn't train for half a year, you might go, you might need, you know what I mean? Like they say with shooting, perishable skill. You don't shoot for a while. That circle which you fit them shots into probably isn't going to be the same. So no, I get what you're saying in that regard.
Right. Yeah, no, good stuff, man. Good questions. Justin, yeah, something else you want to talk about, right?
Yeah, just like on the whole military side of things, I've seen a couple different articles, one in particular talking how apparently like behind the scenes, the Army is considering like drawing down the branch by like 90,000 or something like that. So it's just something that's in the works apparently, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me because I don't know, I'm sure Valhalla did a video, I think yesterday or the day before, about like Iran and all that. I know
that was a good one.
I think y'all are going to get into it, but it's like, okay, so we're posturing and we're having this giant buildup in the Middle East that the United States hasn't done since before the invasion of Iraq, but yet the Army, the biggest branch, is thinking about drawing down. So I think it's weird. I would hope that wouldn't happen, especially if something was to pop off. But it's something I saw, and kind of curious.
Sure.
I kind of
take
segue
into that. So I think a brief summary is that we moved.
No, you're good, Kevin. I'm with you. Now, I take Brent's stance with how he views that, but I'll let you go ahead, Kevin.
No, so we just moved. I think it was 6 stealth bombers, a bunch of F-35s. Is it Carlos Diego's Air Base? Am I getting that right? Just south the Middle East. So we're staging some shit. Like we're not joking around. I think war with Iran could be right on the horizon. And you're at the same time we're downsizing the military. But isn't Pete Hegseth? Didn't he give that order to downsize the military by 8 or 9%? So it seems conflicting.
I think the big thing that could escalate that would be that, and again, it could be fake news. I was getting conflicting stuff. I don't know if you guys saw it. Again, just my personal opinion. I think that potential move with Bagram could be what would set off explosions in that region. I mean, I personally think that was really crazy that Bagram Air Base was ever given up to begin with. But I could see, and I don't know, did Valhalla touch on that at all?
He didn't, but I saw a lot of the same reports you did, and then as well as the conflicting reports. But
yeah,
so I have no idea. But yeah, no, you're right. If that was true, which I don't see how that would happen, but if that was true, I mean, you're talking a much easier access point into Iran instead of having to go through.
Well, that's one of the. I don't know where you ended up, Kevin, when you had went to Afghanistan, but Bagram is like the most strategic air base, FOB, whatever you want to call it, and that whole region. Like your capabilities of going from there to Iraq to here. I mean, they did the Bin Laden mission out of Bagram. And but to kind of go off what you guys have touched on
there since ancient times.
Right. But I take Brent's stance on the whole Iran thing. Like, even if they would draw down, I forget what podcast it was. I don't know if it was Tyler that had asked Brent this question or it was a comment or something like that. But I take Brent's stance as far as the Iran thing goes. Our military is so great, whether it's from the Rangers to SEALs to our Navy to the Air Force to dudes in the 82nd to your private turning wrenches. So even if we would downsize, although the war would be really bloody and really be really bad, I mean, at the end of the day, even if we did have a lowering in force, which I agree with you, Justin, I don't quite understand that if they would so choose to do that. When I think I was seeing congressional stuff about like them complaining about recruiting and retention things. But I don't know. I again, going to follow along with Brent's stance. Our quality of our soldier versus quantity, I think, overwhelms everybody else? China may have more military, but are they have the same quality? I don't think so. Not to bring up China, but I just trying to.
Right. So Justin, I think you're the. So Justin, you're the most recent graduate of basic training out of probably the three of us, right?
Yeah.
How well do you think you were trained for war in our recent military, especially the crazy time that you went through?
Yeah, not at all. I think it was a joke. I think it was completely whack. If I would have gone to combat, not even war, but if I would have gone to combat as soon as I graduated OSUT,
Yeah.
there was no hope. There was no positive thinking. It was, we're gonna die at some point. But
How
at
often did
least
y'all get your phones? I'm
think
just curious.
just after like every phase for like 10 minutes, so we can like call home and be like, hey, we're on to
Yeah.
the next phase.
I didn't get no phone.
It was a different time.
Yeah, mine was probably the same. I think it was very subjective to your unit too. I mean, yeah.
You
Well,
were
and you
Justin.
gotta think-
Your experience. They got you with the COVID shot. I remember. I think I had watched your story, and you had said no.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome, man.
so I joined.
Same
in
here. I
20
did the same thing. Mad respect to you, man. I had said nope.
Yeah, well, like the whole time, and I wasn't a great soldier. Like there's a lot of things I wish I could have done better, but I was a pretty decent. But so when I got
Everybody
in-
does. Everybody does. Hindsight's not always 20/20, as they say in police work. But I have a follow-up question then for you with your service. Then when you're done.
Okay, so when I went in, I got in 2019. Infantry training, it was co-ed, so we have females and we have female drills. So I had a female drill who was my senior, who was a pogue. Granted, she was actually a stud, but the other female drills should not be there, and every single female recruit should not have been there, maybe other than two. But yeah, so that was kind of a joke. And then as soon as I got to my unit, a few months later, that's when COVID happened, and then just downward spiral from there.
So Justin, I'm curious. So I'm really curious. So I have seen in the news a bunch, and I'll have to find the article. I'll come more prepared here next week. Have you heard anything from the DoD? Because I keep hearing that they've sent letters to people who got booted from the COVID shot. Hey, come back. Here's this back pay. Would you say that's true? And you've heard for them? Has that happened to you? And if it did, because that to me is big news, because I didn't know if that was a myth or if people did. They were talking about back pay, and then apparently they did sign something. So have you gotten anything correspondence-wise from the DoD? Hey, Justin, come back. We'll give you your back pay. We'll reinstate you.
Yeah, so I got a phone call from HRC. I called them back. So it is true. If you were discharged for that reason, now if you left on your own accord, if you retired for it, too bad, so sad. But if you were actually discharged, you could come back. It would basically what you would do is you do a 2-year contract. You'd get all your back pay, any bonus that you had to pay back. So BAH, BAS, all that stuff. So you would get all the back pay, and you just go back for 2 years. The problem, though, for me, and there's no guidance on this, is no one has been able to identify if since I was active. Well, I have a life right now. I got stuff going on. I got a family.
Right,
I can't just.
right.
It'd be a lot of money. I can't drop my life though.
Right.
My question was, okay, I was active duty. Could I go back into the National Guard with these same stipulations? And so there's no guidance on it. But as far as actually getting reinstated, no, it is true, and I know they're pushing for it. But there's just not a lot of guidance.
So Justin, when you say HRC, because I'm familiar with, was that like a sergeant major? Was that a colonel that called you? Like what? I'm just curious. I find this fascinating. I think, no, seriously, you're like the only story, bro, right now. We're privileged, Kevin, to do this live with him. I don't know if you've seen that, Kevin. I have seen stories about people talking about that, but not actually like from the horse's mouth. So I'm like super curious now. So was that a sergeant major from HRC? Was that? And then my other question for you with that, when you talk to them, was that something where you would go right back to that unit? Because if so, I would never go back to if the unit I had to go back to was the unit kicked me out. Nope.
So it wasn't a sergeant major that contacted me. I'm pretty sure it was just an E5 or an E6, but it was
Really.
But it was as per Secretary of Defense, so on by executive order of President Donald J. Trump. But the actual guy that called me, it was probably some guy that was just doing what he was told, and that's why he didn't have any information, and neither did any recruiting
I'm like
officer.
super shocked by that because usually I don't know if you guys know this. Usually HRC is usually like SAR majors and stuff that run that, like because they're the ones making those unit decisions for where people go.
Yeah. As far as like going back to your unit, what I was told by HRC, the different recruiting officers I talked to, you wouldn't go back to your old unit. It would literally be kind of starting fresh. So you basically just prior service, and then if you keep your same job, obviously, and then hey, whatever's open, you'll go to the needs of the Army. But it's not like, hey, I was in 25th ID Hawaii. It's not like, no, you're going to go back there, because there's that conflict of interest. If you do send dudes back to who kicked them out, especially if some of those dudes are still there. Now, my CO and BC are gone, but you're still talking about a huge possible problem with, this guy's a unsubordinate. He encourages mutinies and stuff like that.
Well, also just too, and I'm gonna make a video on it, but like, Anti-Hero did, some of the stuff with Eddie Gallagher. Like, I don't know if you guys agree, and again, I know there's the separation as far as like military criminal stuff to FBI and stuff like that. But to go off your point, Justin, is some of the military justice stuff is not fair and impartial as they would like it to say that they are, because you could have some full bird colonel making a decision and his major is saying whatever, and he may say it's fair and impartial to the standard or regulation, but as you, I'm sure, have experienced, not. So, thank you for sharing that. This is probably the only video on the internet that I know of someone talking about that, because I didn't know that was like legit. Because you hear stuff in the news, politicians like to talk about stuff that sound good. Because what you just said there, Justin, 100%. The conflict of interest there, because I could totally see, officers don't ever get held accountable for anything. So I could totally see, yeah, hey, Justin, come back to this unit. And this captain's like, yeah, I got you now. We're going to get you for something stupid. So I totally get your perspective there.
Yeah, awesome. I got a buddy in the National Guard I deployed with who also refused to jab the National Guard and going back to his same unit. So I texted Justin earlier about this. It'd be cool to have him on as a guest.
Yes.
Compare experiences for sure.
So I have some more questions, Justin, with that, if you don't mind me sharing. So you got this phone call and they said, hey, I'm Sergeant such and such, HRC. Did they say like you'd have to go through like a basic training thing again, go to MEPS? Like or is it was just, hey, show up to this base, here, go to Deere's ID card, here's these uniforms, shave your face and go get in formation?
So I wouldn't have to go back through like infantry training. It would literally be go through MEPS, like your normal stuff, and then get your duty station, and then just the normal in-process stuff like that. So
probably he PCS and got back, I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this again, my mind is blown. I guess we can kind of put some truth to. No, seriously. I remember Trump and Vance all over when they would bring that stuff up. That was like something I felt like they would really highlight as like a selling point. But you're the only person I know. You definitely. If I was you, Justin, make a video on that, man, talking about that, because I don't personally know anyone. There's not a lot. I don't know if there's a lot of you guys. As far as all that stuff goes.
Yeah, I don't know. The official number for the Army was like 8,000 or something discharged, but I take issue with that number. I don't really believe that was the legitimate number. Especially
that probably doesn't count people who retired because hey, instead of getting the jab, I'm just gonna retire.
Right. You're like a first sergeant or a E7 about to retire, and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna drop this packet here and.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, I just learned something new. Now I would have never have known that's how it was going to go. I was thinking maybe they were going to offer you like, hey, here's like immunity for 2 years for protected from command, or because again, man, that would be my. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you guys. You guys are both in. I mean, depending on what rank you are, I mean, you can kind of swing your dick whatever way you want to as far as getting away with stuff.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You want to talk about Detective Escona? All right. So, quick backstory on this. March 7th, Detective Escona. I believe it was in a plainclothes detail. He attempted to talk to another vehicle about illegally possessing firearms. Didn't even make it out of his cruiser and got fired upon. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his wounds later at the hospital. His partner was also shot. He's still in the hospital, I believe, from the articles I was reading. But a 14-year-old, along with a few other juveniles, were taken into custody. And the 14-year-old juvenile is being charged as an adult in a federal court. What do you guys think about that? Should we charge a 14-year-old as an adult, someone who's not fully grown yet or hasn't had the right, economics or socioeconomics and support system, is what I'm trying to say, around him?
I think it'd be real easy to emotionally want to say like, yeah, no, we need to charge this, because I understand at the end of the day, a 14-year-old, you have common sense, right from wrong, murdering a human being is evil, especially if it's a police officer. But I would say if the law supports charging him as an adult based on the circumstances, then yeah, totally fine with that. But it can't get to the point that people are allowing emotional responses to dictate how they prosecute people, in my opinion. So because I saw what you were saying, reading, as long as the law supports it, as long as the law supports him being charged as an adult, I got no issue with it, as long as it's done accordingly. Because I have little faith that this kid is going to spend his life in prison. I would be very surprised. I'd be surprised if he's in prison for more than 10 years, to be honest with you. I have very little faith in the justice system, especially in the Northeast America. So I don't know, but.
So my logic here with society in terms of that whole thing is and again, I'm not saying we should, as whether it's the justice system or whatever, follow societal norms, but I feel like this makes sense. So if people arguing at 14, they're saying, hey, he can't be accountable for XYZ. And again, I don't like to throw everyone into one basket as far as like beliefs go. But if we as a society can say little kids can go make a decision for themselves to go mutilate themselves and have some sort of gender transitioning surgery, then I think it's within the scope of reasoning that a 14-year-old should be held accountable for what he did. You see, it's not the same, yeah. But I think that's fair to they're close in terms of if the parties are saying, if the other party is saying, hey, I mean, just from a society standpoint, I mean, I know it's different, but in some regards, that's something I think of, because I can think of, again, maybe it's an assumption, but the folks that are going to say, no, don't charge him, and he's just a minor kind of dynamic. Because I think we as
right, we have a messed up society when you think about it. So like
we do.
You can't buy cigarettes till you're 21, right? You can't buy alcohol till you're 21. You can change your gender at any age now, apparently, and in some cases be charged as an adult in a crime. Like 16-year-olds to drive. It's crazy when you take a step back and think about it.
Uncle Sam, your company commander can give you a M4 and send you to Afghanistan and go shoot some folks too. That's but you can do that at 18. But I gotta wait till I'm 21 to have a beer. Not if you're in Europe though. But you are right, though,
Kevin.
But
you can go to war.
Right, exactly. Hey, no Zen or no alcohol, and if we catch you on post, it's an underage or it's an alcohol-related incident, we're going to kick you the fuck out of the army. But hey, we're going to Afghanistan. You're going to kill some folks. It's just the paradox there is interesting.
Yeah. America.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like
awesome.
Like the 14-year-old. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's like the situation in Texas. Like that high school kid brought a knife to a track meet, stabbed a kid, and now there's people that are like, oh, it's self-defense and we shouldn't be charging people of such and such. But it goes back to, I don't know. It's what you had said, Kevin. We are so messed up as a society. It's become like a zero accountability society for pretty much everything. And if you use people's arguments as far as like the try to apply again, the like you had said, kids mutilating themselves at a young age, if they can make those decisions, that party of people, then I think that standard then should apply to everything else. Like, then let's let elementary school kids get tattoos, because in Pennsylvania, you can't get a tattoo till you're 18. Why? Like, if that's the case, if that's the logic we're applying to everything. Hey,
Right,
we're
real quick, going back to that Texas killing. Like, I want to give a quick shout out to that father. I don't know if you guys watched that full video or not. If you guys are Jordan Peterson fans, he always talks about being the strongest man at your father's funeral. How about being the strongest man at your son's funeral? That's next level. The way he was just able to calmly talk about his son's death is, I think that's a character men should strive to live up to.
So I have a question then for you guys, then you two. I don't know, Justin, if you know what I'm talking about in terms of the kid in Texas, the stabbing there. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So Kevin first, and then Justin. I'm curious. You're in the police academy, Justin. I don't know if you guys have gone over criminal law, but again, we're not in Texas, but just based off of the information that's out. So Kevin, how do you, as far as, do you think that kid has a sufficient argument, as he says, for self-defense, is what he's claiming? And in Texas, their law for, as far as the self-defense goes, is self-defense essentially is applicable if it's force met with equal force. And granted, we haven't seen a video or know all of the facts. And I know sometimes it's not good to kind of give preliminary stuff per se, but I mean, the story that's out there now is they asked the kid to move. He was in a tent he was not supposed to be in. And I guess I put my, again, brief amount of time I was a cop, and I think about the time I worked with district attorneys. I think a district attorney may argue, and again, I'm curious your thoughts, Kevin. I think a district attorney may say, well, what were you doing with a knife at a high school track meet? So I'm curious, Kevin, how do you perceive, do you think there's a self-defense argument there? I mean, if someone just grabbed your shoulder, I mean, does that really warrant then the turn? Like, I'm just curious. I'm curious.
So knowing what I know, and I know that there was,
and he did ditch the weapon.
Okay, so the one male was sitting by a team's equipment, right? And guy on that team, like anyone else, would be like, "Hey, man, like, that's our stuff. Could you move?" I don't know how he said it. Could you move? If at that point someone goes to take out a knife and stab someone, that's insane. That's not okay. That's not justified at all. If there was no serious physical harm or lethal force even threatened towards the now victim, then no, that's not self-defense.
Yeah, I agree. The premise, or like trying to, and I also think where the self-defense, again, Kevin, you tell me, you've been a cop longer than me and Justin. I have a hard time buying the self-defense thing. And again, this is what was reported. It could come out false later on, but what was reported was he ditched the weapon. He launched it up into the stands. If you really, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the guilt there, if you really felt like it was just self-defense, like, why are you ditching the weapon that you did the act with? Like, I
understand where you're coming from, but I don't think you could use that as whether he was guilty or not. Like, I get how that looks. I understand.
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily a factor whether he was guilty or not. What if you were just scared? You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. That's true. You could articulate that. That's true. Justin, what state are you in?
Texas.
Oh, you're the perfect person to tell. So have you guys talked about this at all in your academy, or like what's your thoughts and what are you seeing down there? Because you are essentially on the ground down there. What are you seeing as far as your thoughts and what are you seeing down there from the academy to just whether it's the news or or police stuff?
Yeah, so we haven't specifically talked about it. We had our penal code a while back. So as far as the whole self-defense thing, legally, based on penal law, the kid doesn't have a leg to stand on, because he would have to be able to verify and have other people verify that he was in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death himself. And based so far on the stories of the witnesses that were there and the accounts, is there wasn't any of that. Now, even if Austin Metcalf did physically push this kid or shove him or whatever, it'd be very hard to articulate that he was in serious, fear of losing his life.
Right. You can't turn around and stab somebody.
Exactly. Now, really what it's going to end up depending on is the city that it happened in, Frisco. It's in a pretty red county. I think there might be some parts that are in Dallas County, and Dallas County is very loose and liberal. But with the way this is kind of blowing up on social media and the news, I'd be willing to bet that this kid is going to go to trial. He will get charged. Now, whether they actually stick him with the full bill, which I think they should, I think they probably will, or if they were somehow going to drop it to like manslaughter. But the thing is, with manslaughter in Texas, your culpable mental state would have to be, negligently, and you can't negligently stab someone to death. Like you have to intend to do it, knowingly do it, or recklessly. But
Look at you
know.
just rattling off all these academy terms. Good for you, man.
I try to study.
Well, I mean, I could see the dynamic. I forget what someone had posted about the intent being there in terms of the argument there. And again, it is speculation, but I mean, I think that kid in front of a district attorney, you, Kevin, have dealt with more district attorneys than me and Justin. I mean, they're obviously smart people having those jobs. I think the really difficult argument that kid is going to have on the stand is just the dynamic of bringing the knife to the state, to the event. And then I don't know if Texas is the same in Pennsylvania. We have stand your ground here, but again, not generalizing every district attorney in this state, but I think most are going to expect you to try to de-escalate in some form. Because if what people are saying in terms of this is self-defense, then every person that bumps into someone at a bar or kind of any small conflict, then people would be shooting people if that's the argument for self-defense. But I think that kid's going to have a hard time on a stand if that would go to that point, explaining, to a district attorney with the leading up to why you brought a knife there. Because I think also, and I could be wrong, I think they have a policy against weapons and from what it was reported on the news. And I don't think you would know more about this than I would, Justin, but I believe he also is going to get called up for, I guess, his blade, something about bigger than his palm or something like that.
Yeah, so just before you go, Kevin, so just real quick on the self-defense thing again. So again, he couldn't use that because, like you were saying, the stand your ground law, there would literally have to be nowhere for you to go. And it was for sure you were going to die or have serious bodily injury, or you were protecting someone else's life because there's no other option. So there's just no way that should even be a thing to be talked about. As far as the knife thing, so he should, if he hasn't already, he should be catching a charge for just having an illegal weapon, a weapon in prohibited places already.
Right.
Especially because if that knife is longer than the 5.5 inches, the blade itself, then yeah. So yeah, both of those things, there's just no way you can say that he was defending himself. And like you said, why are you bringing a knife to a track meet that you shouldn't even be where you're at right in that moment?
Right. And I think that's where a district attorney, again, Kevin, you have more law enforcement experience. But again, from my brief time working around district attorneys, I think they're going to paint that really bad. Like, where did you get the knife you're not supposed to have? Why did you have this kind of thing? What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Well, so, I mean, he's got all the constitutional rights that we have. He doesn't have to answer.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
And he's probably better off not answering that. I'm not an attorney. I'm just saying he's probably better off just getting a good lawyer and let the lawyer do their lawyer things.
Well, I wonder then. Well, so Kevin, I wonder then your thoughts on this in terms of the civil dynamic, because I was reading something about this. So that family set up a GoFundMe. So I have no doubt that the victim's family is going to sue the school and going to sue that other family. I wonder in terms of the civil stuff, if they'll be able to go after any of that money that the suspect had raised. I wonder if they'll be able to get any of that.
I don't know. I really can't speak to civil stuff. I just know you have to have preponderance of evidence as opposed to beyond reasonable doubt. So I don't touch civil things too often. That's not my lane. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Anything else you guys want to cover, talk about? I know we're about 45 minutes. Do you guys want to try and keep it around here? Try and do an hour even maybe? I could do an hour. Maybe not this time, then the next time.
It's up to you guys. I'm game for whatever. It's up to you guys.
I'm cool with whatever. I did just want to bring one thing up, going back to kind of that stuff I brought up earlier, just about the way that it seems like policing in America has really kind of spiraled downward. So aside from the politics and all that stuff, when it comes to just weak people being in a position that they shouldn't be in, I saw someone say something the other day, and it didn't, like, I wasn't butthurt, but his rationale was, well, at least they showed up, because you don't have people wanting to be cops nowadays, blah, blah, blah. So at least we got that uniform filled. I think that's a ridiculous thing to say. That's good. I understand what you're saying, because every police agency in America is shorthanded and you need bodies. My philosophy is, why would you sacrifice quality just for quantity? Because at the end of the day, if you put someone who is scared, out of shape, not mentally capable to handle whatever, the job could bring at them, all you're doing is raising the risk for someone to get hurt or killed when you're talking about an officer or a member of the public, even if it's a suspect. So I get what this guy was trying to say. Hey, at least we have the bodies. They showed up when other people wouldn't. That shouldn't be some, badge of honor. That shouldn't be a attaboy. To me, just because you show up, cool. You have to prove yourself every day, just like in the military, just like in any job you do. I'm in a police academy. Just because I graduated the police academy, I'm not a cop. And my instructors are very straight up about that. Like, obviously, will I be licensed? Sure. I won't be a cop. The way I see it is, I won't be a cop for at least the first few, 3 to 5 years, because that's what everyone tells me. Like, realistically, that's when, you're ready. But you have to have that mindset. And I get police departments they don't want to be held liable if something were to go down. But if you train these people properly and you make sure that these people have this right mindset, that warrior mindset, that's not talking about Americans using force on American citizens, because you should not have a tyrannical police state ever. And if that were to ever happen, Americans should resist that at all costs. But if you're going to be a cop, you have to be willing to protect people. And if you're going to die with some honor. Like, no one should die. No one wants to die. But your family should know that, hey, my husband, my wife, my brother, my son, they went out to the very end, clawing, scratching, so that they didn't die for nothing. And I just think, especially with that video we saw, man, why is it that the first cop that gets out of their car, she can barely run half a block and she gasses out. But you got this other guy hauling ass, catching this guy, turns the corner by himself. If that suspect wasn't such a moron, that cop could easily have been killed, because he's by himself around the corner in between all those cars. It's a tight space. He had the quick reaction to get a couple shots off. He was by himself for a good 7 seconds before his other officers got there. That's ridiculous to me. And the fact that anyone would justify it, saying, well, at least they showed up.
And that's a long time. That's a long time. 7 seconds is a long time.
Yeah. It's a ridiculous amount of time, especially when you hear shots go off and your first reaction is go, oh, like, why are you scared? You're around the corner. Your buddy is the one that's right behind this guy, and you don't know what's happening. Did your buddy just get shot? And so
right.
Like I said,
so Justin, kind of what you're saying, Justin, is you're basically saying it's a quality issue, quality of the person doing the job, in a way.
Kind of, like I said, I get there's a lack of interest in people being cops, and I understand it, and I understand that you do need bodies on the street. But if you're already going to be limited in the amount of people you get in the door, you should be strict on who you're letting in the door to begin with. Because if you have a bunch of scared, weak people who don't know the law, aren't confident to go hands-on with somebody to reduce the use of force incidents, you're just going to rise everything up. So I think it's both. Yes, you need bodies, but those bodies have to be able bodies. And if you have to, suffer a number, but you're getting good people, to me, that's worth it. Because eventually, if you're able to change the culture just a piece at a time, and yes, this is a whole societal problem, but if your police force can be small change over 30 years, if it takes that, eventually the numbers will be there, in my opinion. Now, I can't tell you all the numbers and how it would break out, whatever, but I'm just saying that's my thought process is I would rather know that this badass cop, he might get there 2 minutes later when my family calls him, but my family is going to be safer when he gets there versus someone else that gets there sooner that's not ready.
It sounds like police work's taking a
Right,
page
it's like
page out of the military. It's kind of one of them thing. It's kind of one of them things. I don't know if this you agree with this, Kevin, or not. It's kind of like one of them things you're going to do in a. It'll make sense here in a second. It's kind of like your commander says, "Hey, let's do a layout," and this layout normally needs 10 people, but we only have 2. But those 2 people still get it done in the amount of time that 10 people get it done. So then the unit goes, "We don't need 10 people. You guys are still getting the job done." See what I did? How in that regard? Like you guys still continue, Kevin still continues to get the job done. So it's kind of like, why do we then? I don't know if you get my angle there. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
So I think a lot of it comes down to is, are you a liability or are you an asset? Because maybe you get the body in the uniform now, but maybe you pay the lawsuit later. You know, which do you want? Do you want quality? You want quality? Are you hiring liabilities or are you hiring assets? And maybe in the short term, it pays to hire the first person that signs up. But I think in the long term, for sustainability, you need to look at hiring people who are assets to your community. Who do you want to hire to police your community? That's who you should be hiring. The people you want riding around at night, you know, the ones that are going to protect your family.
Hey, so question for you then, Kevin, as far as the cop thing goes, do you think some of it has to do with, again, I correlate a lot of stuff military, I spent more time military than I was a cop. Do you think some of it has to do, you know, Hegseth reference, you know, the military got away from like lethality kind of dynamic. And like, do you think any of that stuff has to do with it? Because like here in Pennsylvania, there was a big story that hit the news. There was a tier 1 guy that got turned away from being a state cop because he had some tattoos. So there was kind of like, which to me is really stupid. But do you think any of that has, as far as the policing stuff, like they've gotten away?
So
do you get my question there?
Yeah. So who is the Secret Service director who quit? I think she ended up quitting in the end, right?
She worked at Pepsi. She used to be a Pepsi CEO. Oh man.
Yeah, right. Qualified for the job, right? Pepsi CEO, Secret Service.
I
believe if I'm wrong on this, someone wants to change what I'm saying. I believe her goal was to have Secret Service at 30% DEI hires in the next 30 years. And the numbers might be a little off on that, but she was putting the DEI over what you should just hire for, and that's quality, merit-based people who can do the job. And I think we need to start. I think the pendulum's starting to swing back. I don't know if you guys feel it or not.
No, I completely agree. I think it goes back to one of them things you had referenced, Kevin, societal wise. I think we've gotten so far away society wise from having, you know, I wouldn't say uncomfortable conversations. I would just say talking about the truth, like in terms of whether it's standards for things and people don't want to hear those. I guess I don't know if you want to call them critiques or your assessments.
Say again. What's your point you're trying to get at?
Basically, it's at Ranger School. Perfect example. So last time 2 females made it through Ranger School was when Obama was president. Since then, there hasn't been any females that have made it through Ranger School. So not saying that they lowered the standards, but it certainly seems in that way. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there. It looks to me from the outside, there's been a lowering of a standard for quality in terms of police work because it's back to the DEI thing, kind of like you had said. So we're taking someone off of appearance rather than what's on the resume.
I just think whenever you take someone based off of a appearance rather than what they can do and their merits, you're not going to be as successful as just a merit-based hiring system. Not pro, any gender or anything. Just what can that person do?
So Kevin, I have a question then for you here, because the military is kind of headed this way. Do you think for police work, in terms of, I don't know what the physical fitness standards were for Justin, for you in Texas, or for you, Kevin. Do you think females, because it sounds this is where the Army's going, do you think females should have similar as far as whatever the requirements are to do things from a physical fitness standpoint as males, or do you think there still should be some differences?
I think a standard should be a standard across the board, doing the same job should have the same standards.
I agree. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, no, I think it should, but like with a lot of things that should change and all that, it will never happen because it can't happen, because at the end of the day, police brass all over the world, all over the country, politicians, governors, everyone, they want that box checked. So like there's a lot of awesome female cops. Like I know just 2 right now I can think of that like I really respect, and that's like, dude, they're go-getters. So, but the problem is you're going to limit your number of an already small population within a job that is predominantly male. And I just don't think powers that be would do that, because you're taking away that box. You're taking away the check on that box right there if you do that.
And it's not like people are saying they can't do the job. I think that's where that argument sometimes gets lost. Like it's like people are saying women can't do the job. It's not that either of us are saying that. It's just,
No,
you
not at
know,
all.
it's one of them things where like if you're doing a job and you all have to meet said standard and one can't, well, let's say you're in a firefight with somebody and said person out of the, let's say there's 4 of you, then you may have to pick up the slack for that other person. And then that could risk safety and all of those other sorts of things. Like that's what I always circle back to with it. Like if we're all doing the same job, like, and I think you guys agree.
Well, there's a ton of men that can't do it either, whether you're talking about just even getting into a police job or the military. Like there's probably more men who can't even meet the standard than there are female. And so when we're talking about like this argument is very pro women doing these types of jobs, as long as you're right here and you can do the physical stuff, then you're good. So it really isn't a gender thing. It's a standard being a standard. And if you can't cut it, whether you're male, female, whatever your race is or whatever, you shouldn't be there.
Justin, with your go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna say I have met plenty of females in law enforcement that I would take over some dudes. I'm that 100%. There's some badass women out there, and there's also some weak men out there. So it's 100% not just a gender thing.
Yeah, there was a chick at the live show that was a cop, and I totally would not ever mess with her. She looked like she would like elbow me or punch me in the face without like thinking about it. So that was one I thought of. Justin, question for you, because I'm curious about this. So when I had to go through the academy up here in Pennsylvania, I had to do this whole background packet, pretty similar to my background I did at the first department I got hired at. Did you have to do that, I'm assuming, to get into your academy? And if so, did you run into any kind of kickback from what you had to put down with the Army? Because I'm curious about that as far as what you had to put, what commanders may have said, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, so no flack or anything like that, especially in Texas. Everyone's very like, oh, that's why they kicked you out. That's stupid.
Okay.
So literally all I had to do, like, yeah, it was the whole background process with the packet, contact people, and it was just explain it and then provide the documentation that support it. But it was no like, whoa, what's this guy? You know what I'm saying? So it was actually very smooth and no one cared about it.
Okay. No, I was just curious because, again, Kevin, you've been a cop longer. I've never, my first time filling out a background packet, the questions that they asked, I was like, whoa. And then, like, the polygraph thing was even further than that. So I was.
Yeah.
You have any stories you want to share with that, Kevin?
We're about to hit an hour. I think an hour is going to be kind of a good goal to have. Why don't we just save that for the next one? Because that's an awesome question.
Yeah, all right.
We can talk about background checks and police. But real quick, why don't we plug our sponsor? Veteran-owned business, Sender Brand. They do supplements. They got pre-workout. They got sleep stuff. The sleep stuff is amazing. I use it working weird shifts just to kind of somewhat regulate my sleep. So if you're looking for some supplements out there, they also got brain health and a bunch of other stuff. Go ahead and check out Sender Brand. Enter promo code GOG for 30% off. Once again, that's GOG for 30% off. All right. Well, boys, this has been fun. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
I'll make sure I have a hat for next time.
Yeah, I think that's like a thing. Just everyone has a hat. So I didn't wear a hat on the live I did with Tyler, the counterculture episode, and he said I had a receding hairline. So now I'm just wearing the hat.
Tyler said
Now
you
I go
got a receding
self-conscious.
hairline. That's funny.
I don't know. Yeah, right. All right, guys, this was awesome. I'm sure we'll talk about it after this, but this is real, man. It was good.
Yeah, no, it was good. Looking forward to next week. I'll definitely make sure to get some stuff and videos and stuff sent over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, great, man. All right, looking forward to it. We'll see you guys. Be safe, everyone.
Yep, you too.